Hello, friends by choice.
You are listening to another episode of the Sisters by Chance podcast.
We are your host. I am Addi.
And I'm Cam.
And this is episode 3 of our podcast, Siblings by Chance.
Today we have some very special guests coming on. This is our first guest episode, so that's really exciting. And we're going to be having all 3 of our siblings.
Yeah, we're going to have them on one by one and talk about a range of topics from spirituality and sexuality to divorce and blended families.
Yep. A lot of heavy-hitting topics today, but mostly we just really want you guys to get to know the rest of the crew. I mean, we are a family of 7, 5 kids. And me and Addi are the oldest.
Yeah, we have a lot of different perspectives as siblings because we're all different ages. So I thought it would be cool for us to all come together and talk about some things, get perspectives of people, different ages, and they might be the same age as you, so you might relate to them more than you could with us.
Before we get into the quote of the day, how has your week been?
It has been another crazy week over here. Camryn turned 20.
I turned 20. I'm 20 now. Feels
How do
weird.
You feel?
I don't know. I've been waiting so long to not be a teenager anymore, and the time has finally come.
She's getting old. Unfortunately, we lost our grandfather this week, so we've all been just coming together as a family and grieving and just sharing our memories of him.
Mm-hmm. My dad went to Texas when everything first went down to go help my grandma, and Texas is going through a winter storm. It's insane over there, and they're snowed in, so it's been a week.
Yeah, it's definitely been a week, but we're super excited for this episode. We've been looking forward to it for a while, and I know our siblings were super excited to be featured on the podcast.
So, Addi, what is the quote of the day today?
Today's quote of the day is, "A sibling may be the sole keeper of one's core identity, the only person with the keys to one's unfettered, more fundamental self." And I just feel like that quote is really awesome because no matter what your relationship is with your sibling, they have this access to you that no one else has besides your parents.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to have the entire history of you and, I've known Addi since the day I was born, and she's just always been there and been a part of my life. And, even if we weren't super close today, she would know a lot about me just because we grew up together.
And that it's your childhood is a part of your core identity. So for these people, your siblings, to know that part about you, they know you better than other people will, even if you're not as close with them.
Before we bring the other sibs on, I think it's important to give a little context of just our family dynamic. Like I said, there's 5 kids in our family. Obviously, Addi, who's 21, me, who's now 20, Corben, who is 17, Londyn is 15, and Aven is 11. So my mom was just pumping out kids left and right.
Yeah, people saw us, especially when we were younger. We would go out in public and we would just get so many stares because there's 5 little blonde kids bopping around. My dad was in the military, so he was gone a lot of the time. So it would just be my mom and these 5 little blonde ducklings. I just can't even imagine the looks that she got.
Yeah.
Especially when we were acting up.
Yeah, for sure.
And we loved to kind of come together and just annoy her on purpose. Mm-hmm. And when you have 5 against 1,
Yeah, you're just kind of defeated. You got to throw your hands up. But we grew up in Hawaii together. Like we said, our dad was in the military, so that led us to be stationed in Hawaii for a while. And that's really where a lot of our childhood happened. Mm-hmm. I was 12 when we moved. Addi was 14. So especially for us, a lot of our younger years were spent there. And Aven and Londyn were born there.
Mm-hmm. And then we moved to Texas, like we said, when we were 12 and 14, and that's where kind of our younger siblings kind of grew up, and that's where their memories are at. We spent about 5 years in Texas, and then once Camryn was pregnant with Colette, they moved to Florida.
Shortly after that happened, our parents got divorced, which didn't really have as much of an effect on me and Addi. You know, we were older and I was just leaving the nest. She had already kind of been out for a little while. Mm-hmm. And so we definitely have a different perspective of the divorce, and we never really had to do the thing where you go back and forth every week. And
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to hear what our siblings say about how that was and still is for them.
Yeah, a very different perspective than us, for sure.
But yeah, now we all live in Florida, and we have a really close sibling bond. We see each other very often.
We live right down the street from my dad. I'm talking like 10 houses down.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all living in Florida. My dad's remarried, and my parents are on civil terms, so it's all come back around. But yeah.
And we have a new sister.
Yes, we have a stepsister who is 6. Her name is Arwen. So now we actually have 6 siblings, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Our first guest is our only brother and the 3rd oldest, Corbin Turner. Here we are with our first ever podcast guest. How do you feel about being the first guest on our podcast?
I mean, it's honestly a pretty crazy opportunity because like there's only going to be one person that's going to be the first person just because of the nature of first things, and here I am.
The first of the first.
Yep, the very, very first. So, Corbin, tell us a little bit about yourself. What are some of your hobbies?
My hobbies include music, meditation, skateboarding, and fashion.
Ooh, yeah. Speaking of fashion, you have a very fun and different outfit going on. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I made sure to put on like one of my best outfits, in my opinion, that I have. And this is the reversible, organic, seamed 3-hole turtleneck.
Wow.
And the whole point of it is that it can be worn in 18 different ways so that it takes up a lot of the spots in your wardrobe, so that instead of having a bunch of different things that are all the same, or a bunch of different, like a turtleneck and a dress and a tunic and all this thing, this can actually reverse into all of those. And it also can be worn in different colors. So if I reverse this, I could be wearing this the same way, but in a white color.
Right.
Also, it was algae dyed. So with algae dyeing, what happens is instead of using gallons of water per every single T-shirt, like a lot of like factories will do, this person did it themselves. So they for sustainability purposes of just nature and like wellness of the world itself. And so instead of using gallons of water for one product, he used only 3 cups to dye 8 different of these pieces just because of the algae.
Wow. So it's like a environmentally friendly, trying to save the world type of fashion, which I can always appreciate. I love kind of recycled clothing or anything that's going to help,
Fast fashion is not it.
For those of you who are not watching the video feed, definitely check out our Instagram. We will post a picture with Corben and his outfit so you can get an idea of what's going on. So we have heard about your recent lifestyle changes, trying to be more healthy, trying to take control of your wellness. What prompted that, and how did that all start?
Well, I would say it definitely started really just from the opposite happening and just really getting over it. Because, I'm pretty sure all of us can agree when you're in a position where you're just kind of doing the same thing and nothing's really there isn't progress and you're just either staying in the same spot or even spiraling to a worse spot, you can only sit there so long before you realize I'm going to have to make a conscious effort to change it because it's not going to change itself. Exactly. And so with that, I realized I really need to just take control and start putting just the baby steps into the general wellness, eating well, sleeping well, thinking well, really importantly, and just overall doing things that are going to make my mind, body, and soul feel ideal, how they're supposed to feel.
Right. So you kind of were in a bad place mentally and physically, and you were just enough of this. I need to change something, and started making these small changes. Yeah,
because really it can be kind of scary at first, when you're looking at all the changes you have to make and the grand scheme of them. So I just thought out to really just take it one step at a time and just change every little thing individually instead of thinking about all the things I need to change at once and stressing myself out.
Right.
So what changes have you made specifically that's made the biggest impact on your overall well-being?
Well, I'd say primarily the largest all-encompassing thing that really made everything else follow with it was meditating each morning with a blank slate and taking advantage of that blank slate. Because what happens in the morning is you have a blank slate where you're able, like I said, where you're able to completely recharge, and there's a foundation that hasn't been built upon yet because you haven't seen any stressors, you haven't reacted to anything that's negative yet. You just woken up. And so right after you wake up, if you don't check your phone, because the phones are very easy to lower your vibration, you'll check your phone, see something on social media you don't have or anything, and quickly your vibration will be lowered, and you'll start your day with
it's like you're
foundation
5
of
minutes
negativity.
in and you're already seeing something that's making you negative. For sure.
And that's just like, it is not a good way to start your day, because you start your day with bad thoughts. And what happens is you attract more bad thoughts for the rest of your day, and it'll just bring more bad things to your experience, so on and so forth, days later.
Right. So what specific kind of meditation have you been doing that you have found like to work best for you?
For me, since I'm a very ADHD person, I kind of like I'm not very good at sitting still, especially quieting my mind. So a guided meditation is the best for me personally, just because it has someone like talking me through it. So I have something to focus on, rather than meditation where you're kind of just supposed to focus on being still and like just nothing. And sometimes that's not as easy for people that are in my same
I agree with that.
situation.
I definitely prefer a guided meditation. And I think for beginners, if someone's like trying to get into meditation, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, and it's really beneficial because like once you start your day and you meditate and you've done all this, then like when temptations that you usually have that you will easily fall into, like let's say you didn't meditate and you're having a bad day, you're like, screw it, let's go get some McDonald's because I'm just having an awful day, I just need to get some food. But if you meditate in the morning, you feel this clarity, you feel so happy, you feel this positivity, and you just feel like your body's running at so much of a higher rate than it usually does. So you're not going to want to slow that momentum down by going to get McDonald's. You want to eat healthy, you want to make the right choices, and that really just that's how meditation just kind of pushes everything in the right direction.
Right. I did want to say for all of the listeners that if meditation doesn't resonate with you, I know that people hear meditation and crystals and all these things and they immediately think witchcraft or paganism or something like that, but meditation can be praying. It could be a moment of silence where you focus on your breath. Whatever resonates with you and feels right for you is how you can start your morning. It doesn't have to be a specific guided meditation. Obviously, that's what works best for us. I think all three of us can agree that that's what works best for us.
Yeah, just some quiet time. As long as the first thing you do in the morning isn't going to your phone, I think that's a step in the right direction. Even if it's journaling or, not necessarily something where you're, acting like Buddha and trying to levitate, it doesn't have to be that extreme. But I think even that is a step in the right direction, is to just, for the first hour of waking up, just be very intentional with your morning, because it's a fresh slate, new day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'd say you just want to do, like, if there is, like, all the things that you see, like, if there's different types of meditation, you're doing your research, I would really just follow your, like, point of least resistance and follow your heart. Like, you see something that just seems the most, like, you resonate with, something that you understand, something that doesn't seem uncomfortable. Like, let's say doing a guided meditation, you feel like you wouldn't be able to do it because someone else is talking and you wouldn't be able to focus on just focusing, then you shouldn't do it. Like, you should do what makes you feel most comfortable, so it's most, like,
effective for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what would your advice be to someone who was in your position on a negative feedback loop, or who's in a depressive episode and it just feels like they're at rock bottom?
I have definitely been there before, and really one thing that's important to know is when you're in that rut and you're looking up, that it's really good that you're looking up, because some people aren't even able to look up, and they aren't even able to look in the desire of positive energy, and they just keep reinforcing negative energy and then keep spiraling and spiraling. So the fact that you're looking up, you're at the first step and you're doing great. That's what I would say to them, first of all. But second of all, really you just have to start putting intentions forth, like little by little, taking baby steps. So one like really good tip that I have is to put a conscious effort into something until it becomes subconscious, just like making habits. So if you consciously are choosing to be positive, choosing a positive attitude, choosing a great outlook, choosing to do good things for your body, then eventually it's going to be natural because you're always doing it. You're making a conscious effort, then it becomes subconscious, then that's your life.
I feel like when you're at that point and you're looking at people, like maybe even on social media, who seem to have their life together or are doing all the steps for wellness, you're like, how are they doing that? Like, how is that even possible? It seemed like, how are they doing all these things in one day? And honestly, to them, it is their natural state. That's what they're used to because they trained their mind that way. And they didn't start off that way. Everyone's born that way, and then all these things in life bring us down, but it really is just so tiny steps.
Humans really are just habitual creatures, and that can, go for us or against us. Because if we get stuck in these bad habits, it's really easy to stay in them because, we thrive on habit, whether or not it's good or bad. And so to be stuck in a good habit, that's where we all want to be, obviously, but you have to get there first, and that's really the hardest part, but it really just gets easier and easier.
Yeah, and it's really just important to, like, once you are taking these baby steps, also take baby steps with your own subconscious, because obviously, because you've been doing it honestly probably doesn't even feel like a conscious effort, but because if you've been in a rut for so long and you've been experiencing this negativity for so long, it's probably subconscious for you to be thinking these negative thoughts. So what you can do is you start to recognize your subconscious thoughts and push them away, and rather than feeling those thoughts and resonating with them, becoming the observer of your thoughts and just letting them pop into your mind and drift away instead of having control over you. Because really, you can control your thoughts, and you can say the opposite of whatever, you can train yourself, whatever your subconscious tells you naturally that is a bad thing, you can train yourself to tell yourself the opposite and actually resonate with that instead of resonating with whatever is popping in your head.
Yeah, that concept, I think, has made a huge difference for me, because for the longest time, I kind of identified as my thoughts. I was like,
controlled by them.
I am my thoughts, because that's all that's what goes on in my head. That's me. It's my thoughts. But I realize that I'm not my thoughts. My thoughts come and they go, and they are made by me, but I'm just an observer of them, and I can choose to take that in and identify with it and really sit on it, or I could choose to just kind of let that thought go and be able to just say, that's all it is. It's a thought.
Yeah.
Don't give it any power.
One thing I would like to suggest for people who struggle with that concept is the book The Untethered Soul by Michael Allen Singer. And that book is all about just separating your thoughts, like we said, from who you are and your soul. And it kind of talks about your thoughts and your subconscious as a roommate in your mind. And it goes through all the steps of how to really separate the two and how to really become the observer of your thoughts. So if that's the concept you struggle with and you're really wanting to separate yourself from your negative thoughts, I highly recommend picking up that book.
Next, we are going to dive into Corben's music career. He is a musician. I don't know, would you consider yourself a rapper?
I'd say it kind of goes everywhere, because I've done songs that are technically not rap, and I don't want to put myself in a box. So I would say more of a singer-songwriter, and a sound engineer.
Yeah, we just wanted to kind of dive into his music career and what it means to him. So, Corben, how did all of this start out?
So at the very start of it, it was just a joke. I just made a song when I was really young. I was just for the fun of it. I made it in 30 minutes, and it blew up at my school as a joke, just as I made it as a joke. And people started stopping me in the hallways, asking me to sing and stuff like that. And it at least got me more used to talking to people about it and it being a thing. And from there, I started pursuing it more seriously. Me and my friends started to learn more about music and how to actually create it. And a while later, I think this was about 2017 or 2018 when I made this song. And a while later, 2020, my friend Huey Can't Surf of the Salem Witchcraft Records label, which I own, he created his first music video. It was called Weather, and it was around January 2020 that it dropped. And I was just enamored by our ability, or in his ability, to make this music so good. We didn't even have we didn't have a budget. We didn't have really any that much knowledge, anything. I'm pretty sure he recorded this before he even knew about an actual software. He recorded it just like me, vocals over a beat, and it was really good. And I was very amazed by it. And what that led me to thinking was that I could completely, because this is when I was starting to understand the concept of law of attraction, and I realized that I could take this inspiration from music and the law of attraction and make them one. And so from there, I started to I put a lot of energy on it. I was I can completely manifest this. As much as I can tell myself that I can have this music thing work out for me, it can work out for me. And as I was affirming that, and as I was thanking the universe and God for giving me that opportunity and looking out into the sky, just enamored by the world and its ability to give me this realization, I saw a shooting star. And from there, I was well, this is meant to be. And if I don't follow this dream, then the universe is going to be what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, that it doesn't get any more clear than that. And I think I've had a couple of those moments too, just like absolute signs from the world where you just can't ignore them.
There's no way it's not a
face.
sign. Like, you have to.
So from that point on, how has it manifested and grown now to where it is?
So at first, like it was really easy for me to just say like I could do it because I had someone that was a friend of me that was a sound engineer, and I expected them to be like totally on it and like us to be all on the same page. But over time, it wasn't really like they weren't as motivated as I was to make music. And so what I had to do was I had to start doing it my own journey and start manifesting it for myself. And so over time, I got more knowledge on how to make music, and now I'm able to do it completely myself instead of depending on people, which completely changes the game because now I can release whenever I want. I can work whenever I want. I'm on my own schedule. And so that is a big manifestation, is just being able to actually have knowledge of it rather than a dream afar off. Like I wish I could make music, and now I can. And also it's just gone, like as I've made more and more, the numbers have gotten a lot bigger, and it just makes it more like easy,
motivating,
rewarding. And it's like from there, it's like it's just going to keep going and going because like now, because what it used to be before is I would be scared to release music because I didn't know if it was going to receive as well as I would want it to, and I would be disappointed. But now I'm like excited to release because every single release seems to do better than the next.
And I think that now that you're excited to release music, I think that the universe is rewarding you for that excitement versus, you know, you're putting out positive energy, you're putting out music with positive feeling, it's going to be positively received.
Yeah.
So Corbin, you are turning 18 soon. How do you feel? What's your plan?
I'm definitely pretty ecstatic about it. I honestly, there's two sides of the coin. I'm just as nervous as I am excited, but I feel like that's almost everyone that's in that position. Because I've been longing for this freedom for a long time. I felt like I was like, in my mind, I felt like I was like ready to move out when I was 15, just because I've always been such an old soul and felt like I matured so much faster than my peers. And so with that being said, though, it's like there's so much responsibility. There's so much stuff that I probably haven't thought about, haven't considered. There's like so many factors.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely a lot to think about, but it's definitely very exciting.
So what is your advice for somebody who is in your position?
If you're any younger than I am, because I'm 17 right now, I really encourage you to start saving your money the second you make it. The second you starting to make money, so you get your first job, at least like 50% of your income, you should start saving. And so that's one thing I definitely wish I knew before.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Corbin, for coming on the podcast.
Of course. I enjoyed it.
And maybe we'll see more of you. Maybe you'll get your own full episode sometimes. We'd love to have you back.
I'd love to be back.
Sure.
Bye, everybody.
Londyn.
I'm in the hot seat.
You are in the hot seat. Welcome.
Welcome to the Sisters by Chance podcast. You are our
second guest.
Second guest, yeah. But you are our other sister, so.
Hi, sisters.
It was just me and Ad as like the little sister duo, and then Corbin came along and said, "Oh, this boy," and then we had Londyn joining the sister squad.
Here I am,
sister squad.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, your hobbies, your interests.
I'm a cheerleader.
I hated the way you said that.
She said it like a cheerleader.
I'm a cheerleader, first of all.
First and foremost.
Anyways, I work as an IT tech person for a church that my stepmom's father is a preacher of. Really glad I got that opportunity. Thank you. Peace and love. I am also like experimenting with makeup, and I'm into yoga.
Cool. Yoga.
Fun fact about me, I took a yoga class my freshman year, and as one of my electives.
We did not have that option at all, and I would have jumped to that.
I would have loved to take yoga at school.
The teacher was great too. She was like yoga certified, and she was just the funniest little girl.
Maybe I want to be a yoga high school teacher.
Yeah.
That on the noggin. So, as we said before, me and Camryn were older when our parents got divorced, but Londyn was 13 when they originally got divorced, or when they first like officially got divorced.
That is such an age. Like, I feel like of all ages, like that's one of my hardest times in life, was just being 13, navigating that space where you're turning into a teenager. Oh. And so, I don't know, personally, I felt like if they decided to get a divorce when I was 13, like my world would have been crashing down. That's a lot for a 13-year-old.
And we just moved, so I was going to
Yeah.
a new school, and I remember I like just wouldn't tell any of my friends like why I was really upset, and they're like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want y'all to know," because I was like embarrassed.
Yeah.
So what was your like initial reaction to them telling you they're getting a divorce?
At first I was really upset about it, and it put a bad, like I just thought really poorly of marriage, and I thought that all marriages were gonna end bad, and like put a bad stereotype in mind that all marriages were going to end poorly, which isn't always the case. And but it was really hard like hearing them fight about, not because when they were together they were fighting about different things, but now they were fighting about custody and like different like
About
subjects,
y'all.
and now
Yeah.
it's more pointed towards us, and it kind of just, I don't know, put more thought about like, oh, I'm a daughter and I have two parents that are separating. Kind of surreal realization that you have to put yourself through, especially when you're such a young age.
Like I said, if they got a divorce when I was younger, I definitely would have been more upset about it. But I don't know, it was really different for me and Addi, because when they first told us, it was like,
Thank God.
Finally.
thank God, yeah, it's about time.
Yeah.
We've been waiting on this one.
Turn it up. So now that you've gone through that, we're here 2 years later. How has your mindset on it changed now, looking back on the situation? How do you feel about how it all went down and how it is now?
I think that it is definitely for the better, and that it definitely should have happened, if not sooner, and that now they can get along great, and they just want what's best for us and as a family. And before, like, the first 2 years was really rough, and they just couldn't talk about anything without starting an argument or getting heated.
I'm so glad that it all worked out now, and it's very civil. We can all, I mean, we spent Christmas together, the whole,
We still have family events. Like, everyone comes
Yeah.
to
Cameron's
everything.
birthday, we all were
Yes.
together, except Dad is in Texas right now.
but yeah, even my
But
two
even
moms,
April.
my
Yeah.
stepmom and my mom, even without my dad being there as a buffer, it was awesome. I love that we can all get along now, and yeah.
So now that you have come out of that and you have gone through that experience, what would your advice be to someone who is their parents are freshly going through a divorce?
It may seem like it may be the end of the world, like it might be your fault, like you did something, or that all marriages are doomed to end, and that like just such a negative outlook towards everything. But it's really important to look at the positive sides of everything and really think about what this means as a family and as a unit, and what it means in the future. You have no idea what's going to happen in the future, and you should use that as an opportunity to grow and better yourself and your family. And now I think it's, having divorced parents, I feel like I've definitely separately made better relationships with my parents individually. And now I have a close relationship with my mom and my dad
Separately.
Yeah. I didn't really go through much of that, but my advice would be, I don't know, it seems like a lot of change at once, especially if you're still under the roof and everything. And I don't know, a lot changed very fast, but it became the new normal.
You'll get used to it, you'll adapt, and it may seem like, a crazy end of the world situation in the beginning, like a lot of like life-changing events do, but you will adapt, and you never know, it might end up being a better situation than you're in now.
When I was younger, I used to think like, oh, I'm the only kid that has like divorced parents, because no one ever talked about this stuff, and like none of my friends were like, oh yeah, my parents are divorced. Like I thought I was like all by myself. That's not true. There's so many people going through very
same
similar
thing, yeah.
situations as you, and you're definitely not alone on that.
At the very least, you have us. So ever since they got a divorce, you've been going back every week to the other parent's house and taking turns weekly. But recently, you've decided to stay at Dad's for the majority of the time, only seeing Mom every other weekend. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it.
It's like in Good Mythical Morning. Let's talk about it. Okay, anyways. Yeah, it was really stressful, and just, aggravating having to live in a suitcase once a week and then having to pack and then unpack and then not even a week later having to repack everything. And then obviously you'd forget something, you have to drive back, and then, oh no, I don't have my backpack, but I have school in the morning. It was quite inconvenient, and I didn't like how stressful it was, and I feel like it put a lot of just extra added on stress that I just didn't need. Dad works from home, and mom has like a job where she's gone during all her school hours, but she'll like have to stay later sometimes, and then I won't have a ride home from school, and it's very like, oh, do I have a ride home from school? I don't know. I feel like it's just very easy, more
Smooth
having to stay at dad's more full time. I don't have to like bring like half my clothes there, and then like I'm at my dad's house and I'm like, oh no, my favorite shirt's at mom's house. I have nothing to wear, you know.
And you're closer to us.
Yeah, and I can take a little bike ride and go to my sister's house. And I feel like only see my mom every other weekend. I feel like whenever I'm there, I don't get to see her as often because she has 3 jobs. She's got her Cinefin, her photography, and her interior designing. So even if she was home, she was intensely busy, always on her computer or phone, just like working. I feel like if I saw her every other weekend, our time hanging out would be more intentional and more convenient, just like getting to genuinely spend time with her for the time that I am there compared to not seeing her as often.
Yeah, I feel like when I moved away and went to Austin and just completely lived in a whole different state, I feel like the time I did spend with her was more valuable than the time I spent when I lived right next to her or even lived with her.
Yeah.
Because she'd make trips out to see me, and then that whole trip was just dedicated to us hanging out and having a good time. So, yeah.
Yeah,
I can have more weekends dedicated to me now.
Yeah, it can definitely, that will be a really good transition for you.
But also advice for people that do have to struggle with having to go back and forth, because some people, like I had to do that for about 2 years because I wasn't old enough to decide where I want to live. It's really important to communicate to your parents. If you want to buy 2 of everything, just make sure you tell them, and just make sure you tell them what's like the easiest, but anything they can do to make the transition easier or better for yourself.
So Londyn is very open about her sexuality, especially on her TikTok, but it's not something that she's necessarily really sat down and talked about.
So first things first, what do you identify as?
I'm bisexual, but I feel like when it comes to the LGBTQ community, especially bisexual people, it's really a spectrum on whether you like guys or girls better, and I feel like I'm kind of leaning towards more girls than guys.
Yeah. And then what is your journey towards understanding that and accepting that and kind of like coming to terms with that growing up?
Well, ever since I was really young, I've always had this unconscious mind of just like liking girls, and like always looked at girls differently or like the same that I looked at guys. And I just like on social media, I've always seen like LGBTQ plus like skits or like videos and like information videos about it, and I've always just like watched them and be like, or like if I've like watched a movie, you know, and we would all like pick what character we wanted to be or like stuff like that. We'd always like fangirl over the movies. I was always fangirling over all like the girl characters.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I used to play with Littlest Pet Shop, and I would make videos of short films and music videos, and I wanted to make a music video of Girls Like Girls, the song. What a bop. And it was kind of like an awareness, and like the skit was about this like abusive mom. It was like a whole thing. It was way dramatic, and I was way too young to be understanding that stuff. But I was like, Dad, can you help me like edit this and like I put the music behind it? And he was just like, oh, okay. And he like watched the video, and he was like,
Yeah, shortly after that, he came up to me and Addi, and I think Corben and my mom were all just kind of hanging out in the living room, and it just kind of came up, and he's like, yeah, I think Londyn might be gay. I mean, she was like getting me to help her with this video she made of her toys like making out and like two girls, and like it's all just very gay. And I don't know, I think it might be a sign, and I'm like, yeah.
We were all like,
Sounds about right.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that was my coming out.
Yeah. She didn't even have to say anything, we just knew.
But seriously though, did you have like what was coming out like for you? I mean, other than that, just kind of always being a thing for you, what was the moment where you were like, I'm bisexual, and how was telling people that?
Well, when it comes to friends, if I don't really like go around saying like, oh, I'm gay, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't like, it's not like something I just like casually bring up in a conversation. But obviously, if someone asks me about it, I'm not going to be embarrassed or ashamed or anything. I'm like, tell people that I'm bi, but it's not something that I'm just screaming down the hallways at school or anything. But when it comes to family, I never really came out to Dad. It was, I mean, he kind of just knew.
Yeah.
Since day one. But if I wanted to have girls, like my girlfriend, spend the night, then like she wouldn't let me spend the night with a guy. But like if I wanted to hang out with like a friend that was a girl, like she was like, no, you can't sleep over with any girls, even if you're just friends, because you're bi. And I was like, that's unfair. But it's like a really big trust thing between your parent and your child of just like, I trust you to tell me whether y'all are in a relationship or not.
Yeah, that was definitely new territory for my mom of, you know, it's hard as a parent, I can imagine, like
setting boundaries.
And just creating that trust and being able to be like, okay, yeah, you can sleep over, not knowing whether or not exactly
what the relationship is or what's going on behind closed doors.
With bi people, there's a lot of stigma around like having to pick a side. How do you feel about that?
I feel like everyone has a choice. They don't have to pick. If they're 50-50 down the middle on whether they're like guys or girls, then that's all on them, and it's different for every person. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they should be confident, and it's also not a very sure thing. Like, I may be sure that I like girls better right now, but what if I date a girl and I like it just turns out really bad, and then I'm like, okay, I kind of like guys now. Like, it's always a changing thing, and that's okay to change. And like, if
you don't owe anybody a like definite,
I don't owe anyone like a definite answer on like what I am. And if like down the road, like, oh, I'm pansexual now, then like people can be like, no, well, you were bi, and I'm like, well, now I'm pan.
Yeah, I feel like coming out at a young age versus an older age, a lot of people will try and invalidate you and say, you know, you're too young to understand, or like
you don't know.
Oh, you're just coming out as bi, but you're probably going to come out as a lesbian later,
right?
Or you're probably just going to go back to being straight after you actually try it, or blah blah blah. But you know, I think even if you feel that way, even if someone in your life comes out and you're like, that doesn't really sound right to me. First of all, you don't really get to have much of an opinion on their sexuality and what they decide to identify as.
They're just telling you. They're not asking you a question.
Yeah. But even if, you know, even if that's the case, like, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to come out as one thing. And, like, that's the whole point of that age, is just figuring out who you are and what you like.
It's trial and error.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Even if I feel like when someone comes out, there's always someone that's like, well, you know.
People are always going to have their opinions, and you just have to be like.
Yeah.
Grr. You shouldn't let other people's opinions make you change how you feel about your sexuality or question yourself any more than you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And if your friends are judging you because of your sexuality or how you feel about yourself, then those aren't your true friends. You need to find better friends that will accept you for who you are.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like when someone comes out at a young age and it's immediately like invalidated because of their age, it's like, okay, so what if they're wrong? So what if later down the line they change their mind and choose to identify as something else? Like, you know, what's the harm in it? It's just self-discovery.
It doesn't bother you.
It's okay to not get it right the first time, you know?
So what would be your advice for somebody who wants to come out and is afraid of coming out?
Well, coming out to friends, I think that I feel like you should probably come out with to your friends before your parents. Your parents are, friends you can easily cut off and get new ones, but your parents, they're more indefinite. So if you tell your friends and they don't support you, then they aren't your true friends and they don't want what's best for you and they don't care or validate your feelings. But if they do accept you, then that's like that's your homie right there, man. But also your friends can help you like build up your confidence to tell your parents, and just the more people you tell and get comfortable with telling, the more comfortable you feel when it comes to telling your parents. And when it comes to telling your parents, if they don't accept you, I feel like you kind of just have to agree to disagree on
certain things.
Yeah.
Certain beliefs, yeah. I mean, especially the older generation, maybe the younger that we're getting, parents are a little bit more accepting and it's become culturally like super accepting. But some people have older parents that still grew up in a sheltered environment that they don't necessarily understand it as well. I think educating them as much as possible can help them open their mind.
Yeah, make sure if you're ever like walking into the conversation with your parents on it, just make sure that you're very educated on the topic, and if they have any questions, then they can ask away, and you just have to be able that you can answer them and help them understand, because if they don't support you, that's because they don't understand what it really means to be gay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They just think like, oh, it's just like a thing, but like it's way more than
it's not a phase.
Sexuality. It's who you're attracted to and who you might end up with and your soulmate, and way more than that. Even when it comes to like transgender people, that's like your whole gender you're talking about, and if someone doesn't support that, then that's like,
it's hard to swallow.
Yeah.
So Londyn, you're currently 16. Wait, no, you're not. You're currently 15.
She seems so much older than she is.
Yeah, it's hard to even think about the fact that you're 15. Where do you see yourself in 3 years when you turn 18?
Well, when I turn 18, I want to become a massage therapist, and the age that I can start going to massage therapy school is 18. So right when I turn 18, I'm going to become an apprentice under April, our stepmom, and she's been teaching in this area for 15 years. And she apprentices. I basically will do one-on-one teaching with her. Maybe one of y'all could join me. Us just learning, and it's not even about like massage therapy. It's just like about the mind and the body and the soul, and it all being interlocked and having good intentions and all different types of stuff that I haven't even gotten into yet. And I could see myself. I'm definitely gonna move out when I turn 18 as soon as possible. I have a job right now where I'm saving half of everything I get so I can have enough money for a car when I turn 16 and to move out when I'm 18, and hopefully I'll be moved out and in school with April.
Good job taking Corbin's advice on saving young. We all kind of wish we did that. I did. I'm a saver personally. I always have been. I remember in Webkins, I'd let it like build up, and Addi's like, spend all your money. You have so much money. And I'm like, no, I'm not spending it.
So annoyed.
Yeah. But yeah, smart to save your money for when you're 16. I got a car right when I was 16, and I watched Addi be 16 and be like, I need to save money so I can get a car.
I haven't got my permit yet, though, and I turned 15 in November, and it's now February, so
yeah, you
need to get on that. I'm actually doing that this week.
Well, thank you for being on our podcast. We hope to have you back sometime soon.
Of course.
And everybody go check out Londyn. Go follow her on Instagram.
At londyn.liliana. Period. And on TikTok, I think it's Londyn_Liliana instead of a dot. But you know the vibes.
Our third and final guest is our youngest sister, Aven.
What? Last but not least. Alrighty, Aven. What are some of your... Well, first of all, Aven's 11. She is in 6th grade. But what are some of your interests and hobbies?
Art, anime, jewelry making, and video games.
What video games do you like to play?
I don't know. Minecraft. Just like their
We've all had a Minecraft phase.
Yeah, been there. Still am, honestly. I love Minecraft.
We wanted to talk with Aven about COVID in middle school. I thought that might relate to a lot of you and get her perspective on kind of what it's like and what she's going through. She just started 6th grade, like we mentioned, so she's already transitioning from elementary to middle school, and there's a pandemic going on.
Yeah. So when the pandemic hit, as we know, you were at the beginning of 6th grade and you went into 6th grade virtually online. What was online school like?
Online school was honestly hard for me because it's really hard to focus when you have like thousands of distractions around you, and especially if it's from elementary to middle school, you're like...
That's a big change already, So
what was the like setup in virtual school? You were on like a Zoom call or?
Yeah, I was on my computer, a Zoom call.
With your whole class?
And then the teacher, and I would switch through different classes.
So they just have everyone on mute until you're like called on to answer something?
Mm-hmm.
So you can really just do whatever you want and your teacher's not really paying attention to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So were you like kind of off doing stuff whenever class was going on sometimes?
Honestly, yes.
And so where did that lead you, Aven? It led you down a path of bad grades, and
Yeah, it wasn't the best.
it wasn't the best. So they ended up switching her to real school the second semester, which we're still in COVID times, but, you know, the schools were open again and kids can choose to go online or in person. So you ended up going in person for your second semester. How was that transition?
At first it was a little confusing because it's a really big school.
Yeah.
At least compared to my old school. And it was really different because there was a lot of like, you had to go from class to class, and it was kind of confusing.
Yeah. I mean, you never really knew middle school before COVID times, but I'm sure it's very different now. What are some of the protocols that they're taking?
You have to always wear a mask when in the hall, and in some of my classes you have to wear a mask, but the rest are kind of, they don't really care.
So it's up to the teacher to decide to enforce it, really?
Yeah. There's about like 4 feet distance between each desk, which I mean isn't too bad, but it's not 6 feet, so.
That's kind of pointless. What's it like in the hallway? Like, are people still like congregating and talking and, you know, doing all that, or is it more like separate, everyone's kind of just walking and strictly?
It's still, everybody's just like talks and runs around in the halls, but it's not really much different from what I've heard, because I've never been to school before COVID, but from what I've heard from my friends, it's not really that different.
Do you have a locker?
No. That's the weird thing is we have a locker in elementary, but we don't in high school or middle school.
Wow. Is that just because of COVID or normally?
Normally.
Oh, that's weird. First time I got a locker was high school, and I literally never used it.
Yeah. I didn't use mine either. I remember in middle school, I was like, I finally have a locker. I decorated
so
it.
Extra.
And I never ended up using it besides for like the first few weeks. And then no one else used theirs. And I was like, wait, there's really no point. Yeah. So what has been the hardest part for you, just in general, with adjusting to COVID?
I think the hardest part is honestly wearing a mask. But if I need to, I'm going to. It's not like, oh, I don't want to wear a mask. If I'm going out somewhere and it's not like social distance other than school, well, I usually do wear a mask in school, but I'm going to wear a mask, like.
Yeah, but it's definitely an adjustment. Even for us, it was a huge adjustment. So I can't even imagine, like, trying to enforce a bunch of 6th graders to wear masks seems like a hard task.
It is.
So Aven was 8 years old when our parents got a divorce, and my dad started dating his now wife. And along with that, she got a stepsister who is 5 years younger than her. So what was that like, adjusting to not being the youngest child anymore?
It's a very big change from being a youngest sibling to an oldest sibling. I mean, I still am a youngest sibling, but whenever you're like an older sibling to someone, you kind of have the like responsibility to like keep them in line or whatever.
Yeah, so you felt like you had to kind of like grow up a little bit and assume responsibility and kind of like help guide her in a positive direction. So was your relationship with her like always good from the start?
From the start, I was kind of meh about her, but I feel like recently we're really close, and I see her more of like a friend than I do a sister.
What was it like for you getting a new stepmom?
That was also really different because I feel like it was better to see my dad happier, and it's also great to see my mom happier. She's like focusing on herself and all that.
Yeah. So did you take to April pretty well at first? You didn't know how you felt about her. How long did it take for you and April to really have a bond?
I think I've liked her from the start. It's just recently we've gotten closer. Well, not like recently, but like
Over the years.
Over the years, yeah.
So as you're creating this bond with April, Arwen is also, getting to know our dad. What was that like for you? Was there any like jealousy there?
A little bit at first. Like we would sit down to watch a movie or something, and she would like sit next to him, and I would get a little bit jealous because like I felt like, I don't know, I didn't want him to be closer with her.
Yeah, like that's your dad.
Yeah, and Aven has always been the center of my dad's attention. Like, by the time that my mom had Aven, she had raised the four of us very, like, alone a lot of the time because he was in the military, and so my dad was out of the military at that point, and he was, like, Aven's, like, sole provider. My mom was like, you can take this one, like, this is on you, and he kind of really, like, was Aven's, like,
main parent, I'd say.
Main parent, yeah, for her whole life, so they had, like, a very strong bond and definitely favorite child.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to say it, but I think we all kind of know that Aven has always been little daddy's girl, and if he had to choose.
Yeah, and I could definitely see how having a new stepdaughter who's like, of course, dad wants to bond with Arwen to make April happy and to like strengthen the family, so it's kind of a slippery slope there.
Yeah, a blended family, it's something that's very new to us. We had always been like this very tight-knit family of 7, even though our parents always didn't get along great. We had our 2 parents and all of our siblings and just a very big family unit. And so to just kind of spread apart and, have it be this blended thing, we just were so not used to that. And I mean, Addi and I were kind of distanced from that. We didn't really get to know April and Arwen super well for a while because we weren't really living here during that time. But overall, I mean, I think we all adjusted really well. At first, it was just very new for everyone, but I love my stepmom and my stepsister so much.
Thankfully, they are both awesome. Like, April is an awesome mom, and she didn't force anything. She made sure that we were all super comfortable in the transition of it, and we really lucked out because a lot of people get
evil stepmothers,
and that is not at all the case. She just fits right into the dynamic really well.
And more than anything, just makes our dad so happy, which he deserves.
For sure.
So, Aven, you are a preteen. What milestones are you looking forward to over the next few years of your life?
I think I'm most looking forward to like getting a car and being in high school and all that. And I feel like by that time I'd be able to manage like a business. So I think I want to start like selling my art, maybe jewelry, stuff like that.
There's a lot of kids younger than 16 who have started their own entrepreneurial business, either making something or doing something online that has grown and has reached like a 6-figure income. So yeah, I think the opportunity to do that is huge now more than ever. And definitely by the time that you're 16, that's something that can come to fruition.
Aven has always been the artsy one and all about that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to see where that goes. For her age, I think her art is amazing. I was not doing art like that.
She was like 3 years old and she was drawing better than I could draw now. Yeah.
She's always just had a natural taking to the arts.
The arts.
No. Canceled.
Well, Aven, thank you for being on our podcast. Did you have fun?
Yes.
Hopefully we can have you on again sometime soon, dive a little bit deeper into the mind.
I would love
Of
an Aven
Aven.
episode, yeah.
Everyone loves Aven. Like on our sibling videos, Aven is a whole mood. She's just like, Aven. She's a Leo, so
Yeah.
that just like,
Makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, that is pretty much wraps up our guest. Thank you, Aven.
You're welcome.
Alrighty.
That was fun.
That is it for our third guest episode. We are super excited to have more guests on in the future.
I want to bring people on here, keep it interesting, and really just get different perspectives because we're just two girls and we can only have so much life perspective. So
Yes.
hearing from people younger and older, I think it'll be really fun.
Yeah. So now it is time for the sisterly advice segment.
One of my favorite segments.
Let me pull out my handy dandy iPhone. One of our lovely listeners writes in, her name is Shelby, and she asked, I'm kind of in a point of my life where I'm figuring out how to live on my own. It would be cool if y'all made a podcast on advice for moving out of your parents' house and just general about living on your own. I think we both moved out, like her at 17, me right at 18, so we both have some experience from that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of ties into like what we were saying with Corben earlier. He was like, I'm sure there's plenty of things when it comes to moving out that I haven't even considered that are going to be challenging. And it is really challenging. I mean, your whole entire life since your parents took you home from the hospital, you've been under their guidance constantly. And to just go from that and having that be your normal to all of a sudden you're on your own in this big scary world, it's intimidating. And you know, there's finances, but there's honestly like things that come down to like my dad's not fixing my toilet when it breaks anymore, and you know, plumbing and just like
Random things
running a house, running a household. It's a lot.
I would say my biggest piece of advice is to just research as much as you can while you're still under the house and ask your parents. Like sometimes parents don't even think to advise you on these things. You know, ask them about budgeting, ask them about getting your credit started, asking, you know, hopefully you have someone that can co-sign on a place for you, and just kind of start preparing as young as possible. So 16, 17, start preparing for that transition if you're going to plan to do that right at 18. But my other piece of advice, if you do have a good relationship with your parents and you're in a healthy environment, stay past 18 and
As long as you can.
As long as you can, and save up as much as you can, because you're never gonna, you know, you have your whole life to be moved out. You're never gonna have that opportunity again.
Yeah, I feel like so many people just get super eager the second they turn in. I mean, as you saw, both of our younger siblings were like, well, I'm gonna move out right when I turn 18.
Yeah.
And, you know, everyone wants to have that freedom. You've waited 18 years for that. But I don't know. My situation was kind of different because I had kids and I just felt like I needed my own space. Like, obviously, I was my own family unit and a whole family in one little bedroom of a house of a bigger family. It just, you know, wasn't ideal. But, I mean, had I not had kids, I don't know. I think I probably would have stayed longer and saved up because it makes more sense. If you're able to do that, definitely do that. But if not, like, say you have no one to guide you through this because, you know, like we said, ask your parents. What if you don't have supportive parents? What if you don't have some adult there to help you with things like that? I mean, there's plenty of resources online. It's just a matter of finding that information out there. There's this YouTuber and he makes videos that are like dad advice of just things that dads do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
for people who don't have dads, he like makes it all. We'll definitely link it in the episode notes. But yeah, that's some really good advice. I think just kind of preparing yourself as much as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. And even if you don't have like a parent figure there for you, I mean, just seek that information out from wherever you can get it. Like whatever adults you do have in your life, see what they have to offer you.
For sure.
That wraps up today's episode. Kind of a lengthy one.
If you're still watching to the end, we love you. And we will be going live about an hour after this launches. So catch us on our Instagram, sbc.pod. where we will be doing a live Q&A with y'all to dive deeper. If you have any questions about anything that we said on today's episode, definitely check us out there. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, turn on your notifications to be alerted every time we post a new episode.
We'll see you guys next week.
Bye!